So I will keep my comments relatively brief and didn't prepare anything too formal, but I thought it'd be helpful to start off and tell you a little bit about my background and where I've been, at least in recent history. So about 6 years ago, I joined a company called Grouper Networks, which was one of the early movers in the online video space. And so, if you would have asked me some of these questions at that point, my answers would be dramatically different than they are today, interestingly enough. Long story short, that company was acquired by Sony Pictures, and so made the transition from a very entrepreneurial online video company to a Hollywood studio, and was there for about 2 years before joining Current TV, and that was about 2.5 years ago. And Current, for those that aren't aware, some of the things that we're really proud of. One, we are the fastest growing cable and satellite network in history. We're in 70 million homes worldwide, about 55 million US, with most of the major cable and satellite distributors. We are the youngest network ever to win an Emmy for interactive television. And, interestingly, as we talk about, perhaps there's never been a more critical worldwide need for independent information. And as we watch so many news entities really move away from independent journalism, and lots of bureaus and lots of well-staffed bureaus in lots of different places, Current's really driving towards it and trying to innovate and find models of storytelling that still tell the world's and even down to the local level most important and passionate stories in a way that is economically viable and still entertaining. And one of the shows we're most proud of is a show called Vanguard Journalism. As an example, we have a new season of that launching next Wednesday night on Current at 10 p.m. And the first episode is about Uganda, and covering a fascinating story about how U.S. missionaries have been an enormous part of anti-gay legislation in Uganda that is putting up potentially the death penalty for being gay in Uganda, which is a critically important story in the world that most people that I'm aware of haven't heard of and haven't been a part of. Other interesting things about Current. So Current also came out with the idea of user-generated content on television before there was a YouTube. Al Gore and Joel Hyatt many years ago, really wanted to democratize the television. And I think many of us back then felt that, HD-enabled cameras and editing software being accessible by everywhere would indeed democratize, the television format. And I think what many of us who have dabbled with user-generated content have learned is that, despite the proliferation of HD-enabled cameras and editing software, very few individuals can go out and put together a piece of television or film that can garner a large audience or be of unbelievable quality. Not to say that individual participation isn't critically important in the world and to our business, because it is. But the lesson we've learned is that quality counts, and professional storytelling and entertainment really does count. And so, one of our focuses at Current over the last year has really been to seek out methods of participation and methods of user involvement that have a much lower bar to participation. My rule is, can my mom figure out how to do this and still be an influence, but still come out the other end with a highly entertaining and impactful piece of television and storytelling. So that's really our current focus, as well as figuring out, from a storytelling perspective, how to economically tell the world's most important, impactful stories in ways no one else is telling them.